Hey everybody, and happy Earth Day. My name is Roman Jefferson, and I'm a certified arborist. What that means is I am a person who takes care of trees. And so on Earth Day, one of the really important parts of our natural landscape are the trees. And a big benefit that trees provide us is wildlife. Think, if we didn't have trees, we wouldn't have a place for wildlife to live and things for wildlife to eat. And so I wanted to take a moment to talk about wildlife and trees and how they go hand in hand. So first off, here is a beautiful black bear up in a tree, and if you've ever spooked a black bear, you'll probably see it run up into a tree because trees are great places for animals to take refuge. Here's a beautiful jaguar up in a tree, relaxing. Think if you're up in a tree, especially one like this, you have a pretty good view, and so you can see things coming at you from a long distance away. And it's hard to get up in trees to get you. So animals like to climb trees when they get afraid. Also, animals like to climb trees because it's fun. And look at this little baby orangutan. And here is mama and the baby, and they're munching on some leaves. There it is again. Some other trees that are great for wildlife are what we call habitat trees. Now, a habitat tree is a tree that is giving a lot of benefits to wildlife. And so some of the best habitat trees are old trees that are in the process of decaying or falling down. And what happens is wood decay fungi will inhabit that tree, and then other insects will start to eat that fungi, and they'll start to create pockets and places for animals to live. And so here's a good example of a good habitat tree you might see in a forest. And in some of those pockets, you'll find things like owls. Here's another good example. This is something you might find around here, an old dead ponderosa pine. And as you can see, there are lots of holes in there, and those were probably started by woodpeckers, and then wood decay fungi inhabit those holes, and then other insects inhabit the holes where the fungi was, and before you know it, you have pretty good sized pockets. And here's some raccoons in those pockets. Hello. Animals also like to kind of take a time out in trees, and so if you've ever spooked a mountain lion in this area, the first thing they do is they jump into a tree, and I've personally spooked a couple of mountain lions and watched them quickly climb up trees. So watch out when you walk under limbs. And here's a black bear taking a little snooze, probably in a ponderosa pine. So again, trees are important because they provide food, and one thing that uses trees as a food source are woodpeckers. And woodpeckers aren't eating the food, but they're eating the insects that are eating the wood. And so if you see an old tree and you see some woodpeckers on it, they're probably trying to penetrate through that external bark and find insects underneath. Here's a good picture of some woodpeckers in there. They can actually hear the insects under the bark crawling around, and they peck through the bark and try to reach them. And so here's a picture of a bark beetle. This is probably the mountain pine beetle. And there are woodpeckers that really love to eat these things. So woodpeckers are a good thing because these pine beetles can actually kill the tree. Other insects that inhabit trees will inhabit the canopy and the foliage of the trees, and so they eat the foliage as a food source. Here's a caterpillar eating the leaves, and here's a bird eating the caterpillar. So if we didn't have leaves, we wouldn't have caterpillars, and the birds would have nothing to eat. Here's some other defoliators. These are some bugs, true bugs, or maybe those are beetles. And here's some ants. Ants are taking leaves away to their nests. And what they do is they take these leaves down to their nests, and they support a fungus in their nest that then they harvest food from. So if we didn't have leaves, we probably wouldn't be able to harvest that fungal food. And this whole process really helps to degrade this organic matter. And so insects are essential to the cycle of nutrients. Here's a big sausage tree in Africa, and that is a massive elephant eating some of the leaves of this tree. And you can see the browse line of this tree where other elephants like this have reached up as high as they can and taken what they can. Here are some birds. Now, if you ever want to question whether wildlife is around you in a forest, just walk into a thick forest and close your eyes and listen to all the bird songs. And you'll realize how important trees are to wildlife. At the bottom right is a robin eating some juniper berries. And up in the top left, I'm not sure what birds those are, but that looks like a crabapple. And then there's squirrels, and everybody knows squirrels love trees. They run around in them, and they even find some apples. That's a happy squirrel. And beavers. So beavers eat wood, and they also use trees as a nesting material. So if we didn't have trees around creeks, we wouldn't have beavers in the creeks. And here's a deer munching on some chokecherry. This is a black bear eating mountain ash berries. And the importance of bears eating the fruit, and you might think, well, that's all that fruit going to waste, but a lot of fruit needs to actually pass through the GI tract of wildlife, whether it's birds or mammals like this, in order to germinate. And to germinate means to grow a new seedling. And here's a big pile of poop. This is bear scat, and you can see some whole berries are still in that bear scat, and then you can see some of the seeds from the inside of the berries. And so what happens is a bear will poop this out, and a new seedling will start from within that pile of scat, because that is a big pile of fertilizer, and trees love that. And here we are. This is the final cycle of wildlife, and their relationship with trees is the seedling. So this is a small ponderosa seedling, and this looks like a little Rocky Mountain juniper. And here's another deciduous tree seedling. And so wildlife and trees really go hand in hand. If we didn't have trees, we might not have as much wildlife. And if we didn't have wildlife, we might not have as much trees. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I hope you had a great Earth Day. And remember, if you can't hug a person right now, you can still hug a tree. Okay, take care.